Hello everyone. This time we're going to be taking a look at tabletop sim as well as Mongoose's Victory at Sea. So for today's engagement, we're going to take the classic Convoy. We're going to be taking advantage of submarines as well as aircraft to see how things sort of play out. So in this particular case, we're going to play it as a regular game and kind of see how it goes. The Germans' goal here, of course, is going to be to sink as many of the English Victory-class cargo ships as possible. The goal of the British, of course, is to prevent that from happening. So we're going to go ahead and start off by rolling initiative like we normally do. Wasn't much of a roll, but it worked okay. It gave the Brits 10 and it gave the Germans 9. So things are a little interesting this time because we have an air raid, or I should say an air round before the ship round. But we always do ships before we do planes, even though I just contradicted what I just said. That's okay. So the Brits won first, so they get to move one ship. The Germans have no ships, which means they get to move everybody at one time. So we can see that there are some German planes on the table. They're probably going to be going for the easiest thing that they can do. There's not much the destroyers can do, and unfortunately the Victory class themselves are some of the slowest boats we got going. They only have a speed of 3. So we're going to move the entire group together at 3. Again, our goal is to get to the other side of the table. So I'm going to grab everybody. Again, this is only because there are no ships of the other side. So we move this way. All right, now we enter into the air round. The British have no aircraft. The Germans do, so normally you'd have to decide who gets initiative. We got that already, in which case the British could choose to move the planes first, but again, they have no planes. So coming over on this side of the table, we have some Ju-87 Junkers aircraft. This is definitely going to be interesting from the perspective of the British, because these are fairly deadly, and these guys are dive bombers. So taking a quick look at our statistics here, I want to make sure I get all the numbers correct before I do something silly. Make sure you use good bookmarks when you do these things, otherwise you're going to make a big mess. At this time, by the way, the Germans are going to hide their submarines. Okay, so our move on the Junkers is only 18 inches. So since we're the only aircraft moving, I'm just going to go ahead and move them together just to save a little bit of time. So we'll go ahead and measure out 18 inches, and that's going to be about right there. And we're going to go ahead and move these people. Okay, so that's the end of the turn. Nobody's in range of anything, so we're going to skip the attack phase and move directly to the next turn. So we're going to go ahead and start by rolling initiative as usual. In this case, it looks like the Brits got 7, the Germans got 6. Again, since we're the only one with ships, we have to move anyway, which I guess simplifies things. So we're going to go ahead and move our 3 inches. It is possible to move flank speed, but keep in mind, flank speed is only 4 inches for us. And the other issue as well is not every ship could keep in formation, which could cause issues. So now we're going to move to the air phase. So the Germans are the only people with aircraft, and there's no fighters or anything, so they're just going to go ahead and move their bombers first. So their speed, again, is 18 inches. We want to have a fairly well-coordinated attack. So we're going to come, we're going to come all the way forward. Moving out 18 inches is about right there. We don't want to get too close. We should do this as quickly as possible if we can all help it. Okay. So now we move to the next turn, because again, nobody's in range. There's no anti-aircraft fire going on or anything along those lines. So the British, for the third round, got a 5, and it looks like the Germans got 7. So again, the ship round, it's going to go to the British every time because of the fact there's no enemy ships. So we're going to go ahead. That will change a little later on. But for now, we're going to go ahead and continue. So we can move up 3 inches. So now we enter into the air phase. The Germans are going to do everything they can to make things difficult for the Americans. I happen to know where the submarines are placed on the table, so I want to be very, very careful in making sure they have a good shot, but at the same time as ensuring that they have the possibility of coming back another day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, again, all these guys are within 18 inches. Let's see, who should we get first? We can't pre-measure. So you probably want to go for the most vulnerable ships first. So I'm going to fly right up to this guy here. And what I really want to do is fly, yes, I'm in range. So we're going to attack these 2 center ships to stay out of the range of these guys. All right, so they're now touching, which means during the attack phase, we can go ahead and do some bombing. So now we begin the attack phase. If you remember, the Germans had 1 initiative. However, in the attack phase, anti-aircraft artillery always fires first. So in this case, the JKN class here is going to take a shot It's 6 inches away from the actual target itself. And taking a look, unfortunately, the range of the anti-aircraft is only 4. So that would mean that the anti-aircraft shells get to about here and then fall in the water. So this is a really good play. This convoy is way too spread out and is going to pay for it. So now, since neither one of these destroyers can engage them, we're going to go ahead and move to the attack phase for the Junkers. So the Junkers are dive bombers. So they get 1 less as far as they have to subtract 1 from their attack because of how difficult it is, but your opponents have an easier time of hitting you as well. Wait a minute, that doesn't sound right at all. I'm going to go confirm that real quick. Let's see, dive bombers, and enemy radar range. This is the problem with spreading your rules out, not keeping everything on a single chart. Alright, if you are being a bomber, a -1 penalty is applied to the attack dice. Dive bombers avoid this penalty. Ah, lucky us. Okay, so we're going to avoid this penalty and we get to roll our attack as normal. Keep in mind, though, that your opponent would get a +1 AA, but we're going to assume the victory class are not equipped with AA. So our attack dice, we get a single attack dice per attack. So we're going to do 2 attacks on this one and 2 attacks on this one. So 1, 2 for the back 2. And we're going to do 1, 2 for the front 2 also. So the target number to hit on a victory class is, let's see, it's a 4 up, which means we get 1 hit on the guy in the back, we get no hits on the guy in the front. Keep in mind these are all one-shot weapons. They're also armor piercing. So now we get 3 damage dice for the victory class ship. So for this roll, it's normally a 2 up on the victory, but that's going to go down to 1 because we have the AP modifier. So 1, 2, 3 hits. This guy takes 3 damage right away. I believe he has 13 HP, so he'd be 10 HP left. So that would mean that he only has 10 HP remaining, but we have the possibility of a critical hit. To confirm a critical hit, we need to roll a 4 or higher. We get a 6, which confirms the critical hit. We're going to grab the 2 dice, and we're going to go ahead and roll and see what the critical hit actually hits. So that's a 6. That is going to be something in engineering. So even though he only got hit by a single bomb that only did 3 damage, it was an engineering hit, which is going to probably slow him down, making him more vulnerable later on, which is actually not a terrible thing to happen. So that was a 6, which is an engine's hit. Now we have to roll it again to see what actually happens. So that's a 5. A 5 on an engine hit is, let's see here, fuel system's ruptured. So you actually increase the damage here. So we're going to increase the damage. This actually goes to 8. Let's see what else occurs here. We also lose 2 crew. We'll have to confirm exactly how big of a crew we have. And looking as well, that knocks 3 off the speed. We also get a fire. So that was a hell of a good hit for a single one there. I'll go ahead and plot that right there so we can represent that. So unfortunately, there's no recourse. So we have to move on to the end phase. So at the end phase, we have to go tidy up and see if there's anything we can do. First thing we can do for this poor victory ship, which is burning right now, is we can see if we can put out the fire. Putting out the fire, you take a d6 and you add the crew score. We're going to assume it's a crew score 4. So this dice needs to be 3 or higher to put that fire out. So it's a 5, so we managed to put the fire out. Now we can roll to see if we can fix that damage, the fuel system rupture. So we need a 9, so we're going to need a 5 or a 6. So we get a 2, which means, unfortunately, next turn, we're going to slow down to nothing. So now we're going to go ahead and move to the next turn. Start with initiative like we always do. In this particular case, the Brits got 7, the Germans got 6. Remember, we have to subtract 1 because we have civilian ships here, though. So unfortunately, that is neutral. So now we have to go ahead and do it again. So the Brits got 10, the Germans got 9, but we have to subtract 1 again. So we'll go ahead and try that again. So the Germans got 7, the Brits got 6, -1 is 5. The Germans get to go first. There's no ships, so we go right to the air phase. So after having their successful hit here, oh, wait a minute, before we can do the air phase, we have to do the ship phase. So now we're going to go ahead and move everybody. So we're going to do the 3-inch move that we've been doing before, except for the fact that the guy in the back will not be able to join us on this particular journey because of the fact his fuel systems got ruptured, if you remember. I'm going to go ahead and take these German planes. I'm going to pull them out of the way. Whoops. I'm going to go ahead and separate you two. and it remains in a situation like this. Now we move to the air phase. The British have no planes, so that means the Germans are going to do the air phase on their own. They're going to immediately turn tail and get the heck out of here because they're out of ammunition. So they'd rather not hang around and wait for the British destroyers to rip them a new one with their anti-aircraft fire. And so far, so good. We now move to the end phase. In this particular case, this guy's got a roll. He needs a 4 or a 5 in order to fix his fuel systems. That's a 4. Wait, a 5. Let's see. 4 plus 4 is 8. That is not enough. I was bad. 5 or 6. So he's still disabled. So now we're going to move on to the next round. So we're going to go ahead and roll initiative for everybody. So it's going to be a 2, or it's going to be a 3, I should say, for the British. It's going to be an 11 for the Germans, which is really, really, really good. So we're going to go ahead and ignore that because we go right to the ship phase. The Germans haven't revealed any ships, so we're just going to keep on trucking. So we need to get to that other side as fast as we can. We're going to ignore that guy who's disabled because he still needs to fix. We now move to the end phase. This guy has another shot at attempting to repair the damage. He needs a 5 or a 6 to do so. He gets a 4 again. So unfortunately, he's going to stay disabled, and now we move on to the next round. So as usual, we're going to start with initiative. Let's see how we did. The British got 4 plus 1 is 5. The Germans got 5 also. Again, it's because we have civilian ships. Got to roll again. 8 and 8. Yeah, there we go. So the Germans have a first move here. Interestingly enough, the Germans have a U-boat ready to go, and he's willing to admit where he is. So he's 18 inches up from the bottom, and he's 32 inches from the side, which puts him right here. He's going to arrive on scene completely submerged. But there's another surprise. There's a second U-boat as well, but this guy is going to be 27 inches from the left. So he's actually going to appear right here. Keep in mind, these guys, if they had the ability to detect him with the sub-hunter, they might have picked him up earlier. So now there are 2 submerged U-boats. So now the British get to go ahead and move their ships. Keep in mind, this guy would have to have been, both of these guys get revealed at the beginning of the movement phase, if I'm going to use them. They haven't actually moved yet. The Germans go first, so they're going to elect to let the British go first. So in this particular case, we're just going to move everybody to keep things nice and simple. We're going to move forward 3 inches. Okay, so they're going to stay put. So then this guy stays put. We move him. We're going to move him. This guy, of course, is very interested in seeing if you can detect him. He's within 8 inches. So that is a 5. So this submarine is detectable, which means it can be engaged. Checking for that other one as well. Also detectable. So that means both of these submarines can be attacked this turn. So that's good news. So this British ship is going to choose to try to move into a position where maybe it can do some damage here. So it's got to move half of it. And then we've got to go ahead and get out the little turn marker. I just like to do it by 2 clicks. And he's going to come forward just a teeny tiny bit as well. Because again, we don't want a collision. Even though, again, in the real world, these ships are little teeny specks, they'd be very unlikely to collide. So now the Germans get to go. They don't because they've moved all their ships at this point. So we're going to continue. We're going to move him up as well. We're going to do everything we can. Keep in mind, if one person has detected the submarine, that means technically everybody's detected the submarine. So we're good to go. So these 2 guys, again, since the Germans do not have something else that they can move, we're just going to move them normally. Grab this chap over here, move him normally. And we are good to go. Now we move to the attack phase. So nobody's got a shot at this point. Oh, I'm sorry. What we didn't do was the air phase. So these guys are going to fly off the table, and these guys are going to fly their distance as well. And they're going to keep heading off the table. Okay, now we move to the attack phase. So neither one of these destroyers has each one of these submarines in its rear arc, but the submarines do. So I secretly know the direction that the submarines are facing because I thought this through. So this guy is actually facing up and down. He's kind of got himself in this position, and this guy is also facing up and down in this position. You can't see that, but that's what's so cool about him being submerged. So naturally, I'm going to fire a torpedo at each one of these Liberty ships. I'm going to go ahead. I have to be in a range of 10 to attack it. That's illegal. This guy I don't have a shot on, unfortunately. But what I do have a shot on, and I intend to use, is I have a shot on the beam of this destroyer. So now the U-boats have fired a total of 4 torpedoes. So again, nobody can shoot back at them because they're not surfaced and they're not in the arc of depth charges. So let's go ahead and see what happens. So for this particular U-boat, Again, skipping to the end here to take a look exactly what we have. For this particular U-boat, he gets 2 attack dice for the front torpedoes and 1 attack dice for the rear torpedo. So let's evaluate him first. The destroyer is a 6 minus 1 because we've got a beam on him. That's a 5, so that is a good hit. Damage dice on these torpedoes is 3, so I need 3 dice. Armor score on a destroyer is a 2. 1, 2, 3 hits. This destroyer is blown out of the water. So he's gone. Take the torpedo with him. The other torpedo, of course, is going to fly into the side of the cargo ship. That came from the front tubes this time, however. So we're going to get 2 attack dice. The hit score on these guys, I think, is a 4 up. So that's 1 hit. We get, again, 3 attack die for our superior torpedoes. So it's, I believe the armor rating on this guy is 3 up. So 1, 2 hits. So this reduces him to 12 HP. So no criticals, lucky. So we'll take that torpedo out. We'll evaluate the damage in this guy. This is from the rear tube, so we only get a single attack dice. Target on this guy, we get to subtract 1, so it's a 3 up. So we're going to miss. And the guy over on this end as well, we're going to go ahead and attack him. So we get 2 attack dice this time. And it is also a, I believe for the victory class, it is a 4 up, minus 1, so it's a 3 up. 2 hits. Oh boy, this is going to be a good hit. So we need 6 attacked. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. The armor on a victory ship is only a 2, I believe. 3 up, I'm sorry. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 hit points, plus we have the possibility of 5 out of 13 is 8 HP left. We have the possibility of a critical. We need a 4 to see what happens. So it's a 2, so no critical hit. So it dinged him up pretty bad, but he's still in the fight. So definitely interesting little scenario though. But the game is not over because the destroyer is going to be very aggressive. All right, moving to the next turn. So we're going to go ahead and start as we always do by rolling initiative. We have to subtract 1 from the British because of our civilian ships. So that is 2 and a 3 is a 5 against an 11. So the Germans do have ships, which means they get to decide if we move first or they move first. So they're going to choose to move first. He's underwater, so he only gets 1 inch of motion, which isn't a terribly big number. So this guy is, now it's the, I should say, not the Americans, it's the British turn. He's going to desperately attempt to get all those victory ships out of the way of the destroyer. So now the Germans get to go again. Again, he's going underneath the ship. So it's slightly illegal. I'm going to go ahead and lock him. So now it is the British turn again. The ship is going to proceed. Now it's the Germans' turn, but again, the Germans don't have any ships left, so we get to continue. So he's going to come up this way. He's going to do his 2 clicks, and then he's going to go ahead and cross over the top of him like this. And you have a situation that looks kind of like that. He's not really in his aft arc, though. So that's interesting how that accidentally played out. So we're going to go ahead and move the rest of our ships here as well. Give me that. Okay, so now we move to the attack phase. Nobody can attack. So we're sunk. Right now, I'm sorry. Yeah, we move to the attack phase. The 2 Germans can't fire any torpedoes because they're busy reloading at this time. So we're going to have to wait till next turn to see how that plays out. One thing I missed at the end of last turn was checking to see if this guy recovers. He needs a 5 or 6 to get his engine going. He gets a 5. So technically, he also would have come forward 3 inches. Okay, so now we're going to continue. Okay, so things are definitely interesting. The attack phase is over. Everybody's moved. Everything's all set. So now it's kind of a matter of seeing what happens next. So we're going to go ahead and start, as usual, with rolling initiative. I think I missed a turn in there somewhere, but you can kind of see what happened. So the British get a 3 plus a 2 is a 5 to the Germans 4. The British get to go first. So the British first move is going to be to get this guy the hell out of the way. Germans get to go. So this particular, both German groups are going to choose to come forward an inch. They're trying to get a little bit of distance here. Come forward. I'm sorry, you can't move yet. So the British here is going to move forward just enough to jump stuff all over the top of that German submarine underneath them. So the German submarine underneath them is going to choose to come forward a distance of 1 inch also, which he just did. And now we're going to go ahead and move the rest of our victory class ships. Forward our usual 3 inches. That was useless. Keeping them somewhat in formation here. And now we move to the attack phase. So this time the British won initiative, so the British are going to attack first, and we're going to get a classic depth charge attack. So the depth charge attack on this particular type of cruiser is, let's see here, depth charge, depth charge, depth charge. We're going to go ahead and confirm that he can even depth charge. It would be a shame if he couldn't, but I'm pretty confident that he can. He gets 4 attack dice with 2 damage dice. Sweet. So we're going to dump an entire load on this guy. So 1, 2, 3, 4. It's a 6-up for a submarine. Miss! Oh no! So now it becomes the Germans' turn for attack, since nobody else can attack. So the Germans have reloaded the torpedoes at this point. So the first torpedo from the aft tube is going right into that poor destroyer. The second one is going to be going, let's see here. Yeah, I got line of sight. Yeah, I'd say it's going to hit him in the front. This guy's going to go ahead and use his torpedoes also. He's going to fire one into the guy behind him. And he's going to fire one to the guy in front of him. So let's go ahead and evaluate to see just how successful our little torpedo strike actually turns out to be. I get the feeling it's going to be extremely deadly, but we'll find out. So he gets 2 attack dice for these 2 sets. So 1, 2, 3, 4. We'll use these 2 for this hit, and we'll use these 2 for this. So this torpedo completely misses because it's a 3-up. Oh, what's the target score? I'm sorry. 4, yeah, it's a 3-up. I was right. This guy on the flip side gets hit cleanly with one of the torpedoes. I'm sorry. The front end gets hit cleanly, but it's a 4-up because it's not beaming him. Yeah, still hits with 2 of the individual torpedoes. So the damage dice is 3, so we have 6 damage dice against this poor victory ship. So we're going to go ahead and get 6. It's going to be 3-up for armor, I believe. Yeah. 1, 2, 3... It's also got AP, so you subtract, add 1, 4, 5. 5 hits, 1 possible critical if you get a 4 or higher. No. So that's 5 hits. Ouch. So that's going to knock him down to 7 hit points. So pretty good hit with those 2 torpedoes. This torpedo we're going to check against him. It's a rear torpedo, so we only get 1 damn attack dice with it. So that is a 1. That is a goose egg. The torpedo does not hit. Finally, we have the one attacking the destroyer. We're also going to be using a 1 attack dice for that particular attack. So that's a 5. To hit a destroyer is a 6. So that also is a miss. So even though it was a fairly successful run, it didn't actually achieve what they want to get out. And the submarines in every one of those ships lives to see another day. All right, so let's go ahead and move on to the next round. I'll try to keep it a little more organized here. There's a lot going on, so it's difficult to follow. Go ahead and get this stuff out of the way. All right, first off, let's start with initiative. I'm hoping the British win this one. 3, I don't think that's going to happen. That's a 2 against a German getting 6, so the Germans win this. Okay, so by the way, these fighters have long since flown off the map. So in this particular case, the Germans are going to continue moving forward, try to get a little bit of space so that the unfortunate depth charge attack, which is about to happen, isn't so bad. So the British, they're going to choose to keep the ship right here so he stays in the depth charge range. Keep in mind these guys have to reload this turn. He, in the meanwhile, he moved. So he's got to move now. He's going to move forward an inch also. And then all these guys, since there's no other German ships left, they've also got to move forward. They're going to come forward 3 inches. We've almost got to the other side, so this isn't actually as bad as it looks. Oop, getting a little closer. And now we move to the attack phase. The Germans won, but unfortunately their torpedoes are reloading, which means the British get to use 1 lucky depth charge attack, which this could be kind of interesting depending on exactly what happens here. So our depth charge attack, we get 2 attack dice. Do we get 2 attack dice or do we get 4 attack dice? We get 4 attack dice. So we're assuming he's in range, which we've got to hope so. So we get 4 attack dice. It's a 6-up. So we get 1 hit. Aw. So 1 hit, damage dice on destroyers. Depth charges is 4. Oh, this might actually end happily. So we need to get at least 3 2-ups in order to sink this sub. So let's see what happens here. 1, 2, 3, 4. Done. He took a critical hit, possibly. Didn't matter, because this submarine only had 3 hit points. So the destroyer gets revenge. Go ahead and pull him out of the way. That's over. So it doesn't matter. He has no depth charge, I should say torpedoes ready to fire, so he's going to keep doing his thing. All right, let's move on to the next round. So we're going to start with initiative like we always do. So that's an 8 for the British. It's actually a 7 against the 9. So the Germans get to go first. The Germans say, you go first. So I say, okay. So I'm going to start by basically burning it on this little guy here. And now we're going to go ahead and he gets to move his little submarine. He's actually trying to retire right now, even though he's going to get a free shot on these two guys next time. All right, so now it's my turn. I'm going to choose to move this guy. He's actually going to call up flank speed and take advantage of his agile trait. So I'm going to zip him up here, 2 clicks. He's got to move some of his other distance, 3.5. He's got to, well, we're moving flanks, so that's going to be 10. 10, 3.5 is going to be 6.5. That's actually was completely worthless. Cancel flank speed. So we're going to go 3.5, but we're going to use the agile trait. So when he gets here, he gets to do 2 more notches of movement. The rest of my victory ships are going to go ahead and move their 3 inches. He already moved. And we are good to go. All right, attack phase. So the British have no ability to attack, and the Germans get to attack first anyway. So he's going to go ahead and put a torpedo into each one of these guys here. So he's going to plug one in here. Actually, I don't think that's in his line of fire. I don't have that tool with me, but if I'm not mistaken, I don't think he can actually hit. No, he does not have a shot. So he's going to take a shot at that victory ship behind him anyway. It saves us 4 torpedoes anyway. So now we're going to go ahead and evaluate that. He only gets a single attack dice when attacking behind him. A victory class is hit on a 4 up, but it goes to 3 up because it's beaming. So that is a hit. The torpedoes themselves, they tend to be fairly lethal little things. So we'll go ahead and check that out real quick. The torpedoes do 3 damage dice. This might actually be a pretty good hit. 3 up, -1, so it's actually 2 up because of the AP. So we get 3 more hits on this guy, which knocks him down to 5 hit points. So he's hurting pretty bad, actually. So we're going to go ahead and take that torpedo. All right, next round. We're going to go ahead and roll. So we got a 6 for the Brits. I'm sorry, 6 for the Germans. The Brits got a 5 and 8. -1 is a 7. They get to go first. So they're going to say you can go first. That way I get to move everybody at once. So he gets to move his inch. And now everybody else gets to move. Yeah, we're only moving for a total of 3 inches here. There we go. And there we go. Okay, so now we're going to go ahead and move this guy. He's going to do his usual thing. So he's going to come forward 3.5. 2 clicks. He's going to come forward the rest of his 3.5. And he's going to get his 2 clicks. Oop, too much. There we go. So he's trying to swing around. This guy, meanwhile, is loading torpedoes. All right, next round. So the Germans get 8. We get 4, so the Germans get to go again. He's going to choose to go first this time. He's going to try to put some distance on him. Okay, this is interesting. Since the submarine is now this distance away, he's actually got to be redetected. And that's going to be interesting if he isn't by the time he gets caught up. Meanwhile, all these guys are going to go ahead and move forward the 3 inches. Come on, guys. You can get out of here. Come on, come on, come on. And this guy has his torpedoes reloaded, but unfortunately, he is out of angle of everybody. He's just trying to pull out at this point, hoping to get to the edge of the map. So now we go to the next round. So we have a 4 for the British. We have an 11 for the Germans. The German's going to be like, I'm getting the heck out of here. And he's going to go ahead and scoot as fast as he can using a submerged ability. As the Brits, since I've got all the ships right now, I'm going to go ahead and move my convoy up 3. And I'm going to go ahead and move this guy, try to desperately get another pass on that submarine. It's just a shame that you turn so wide in this game. Okay, now we have a chance. All right, next round. All right, that's a 5. That is an 8. So the Germans get to go first again. I'm surprised he doesn't come around for another attack, but he knows he's going to get hammered by that destroyer by the time it catches up. So we're going to go ahead and move everybody forward to 3 inches. We're going to go ahead and continue moving our destroyer forward. He's going to call it flank speed also. You should have declared that before we started moving. So that actually gets him a heck of a lot more of a move here. And he is on his way as fast as possible. Okay, next turn. The British get a 5. The Germans get a 4. The Brits get to go first. So the Brits say you guys can move first because they know what they're doing. So they're going to go ahead and move an inch. Then all these guys are going to come forward the usual 3 inches. And this guy, he's going to be short. So he's just going to, oh boy, we're going to get a torpedo, aren't we? I'm not allowed to pre-measure. I'm going to come right here. No, I want to get that good shot. Okay, so now we move to the attack phase. So the destroyer can't do anything. The German submarine, believe it or not, actually, I believe, no, I would say he's not in the proper firing arc to hit him. Oh, geez. I think we need to go get the arc tool. I'm not happy with that. That just does not look close enough to me. Let's go ahead and confirm that. Whoop. No, he's actually in the correct arc. So the German's not being silly and immediately fires a torpedo during the attack phase. So he gets 1 attack dice, and it's going to be against a 6. It's not going to be against a 5. So anything can happen. Anything can happen. Let's see what happens. We need a 6. We got a 2. So that torpedo is actually wasted. All right, next phase. See, the Brits get a 7-6. The Germans get an 11. So they're going to say, you go first. So you say, okay, fine. So I'm going to call it my, let's see, 7 inches is not going to be enough. We're going to get my flank speed, and we're going to zip right by him. Oh, no. Oh, I see why the Germans wanted to go first. Okay, that's going to be interesting. Okay, so the Germans go ahead and get their move as well. 1 inch. Actually, I think that it's based center to center is actually still technically 1 inches. We're not in minimum range. So now we can go ahead and take all these guys and move them over. So attack phase. So the Germans get to attack first, but unfortunately they're using a torpedo from the front bay at the poor destroyer here. I guess it's kind of like a 10-foot shot. There would be a minimum range if this happened, but we're going to assume that it was a stern shot. And the destroyer, of course, is going to go ahead and do its depth charge thing. It has a 4 attack dice with depth charge. We need a 6 up against the submersible. Oh, wait. We have to detect the submarine first. We need a 4 up to do that. Oh, no. We didn't actually detect the submarine that we were about to bomb. Do we have Sub Hunter? No. Okay, so that would have been a waste anyway. The German torpedo on the flip side, we'll see what that can do. So he's attacking from the back. It doesn't matter. So it's going to be a 6 up. He gets 2 dice. That is 1 hit. The German submarine, again, he gets 3 dice for this. If these all hit on a 2, then that destroyer is destroyed. 1 hit. So that destroyer, of course, is down to 2 hit points. So that was a hit, but unfortunately that sucked. And we'll have to see how things kind of come out next round. All right, next round, we're going like 2 hours into this fight. 8 against the 12. Yeah, the Brits get to go first. So the British know how this game's played, so he's going to come. Whoop, let's go ahead and lock him so he doesn't come with us. So we're going to come forward just a little about half of our motion here, so we can keep this guy in our rear arc. So now we're going to let the Germans go. The Germans realize they're in a bad way, so he's going to move half of his speed. He's going to start moving. He's going to move the other half of his speed. And he's going to try to pull himself out of there as fast as possible. Now, fun fact, depth charges are slow loading, so I can't actually use depth charges this turn either. But these guys are just about to the edge of the map, which is pretty good news. Okay, so now we move on to the next phase. So we're going to go ahead and roll initiative again. This guy just does not want to give up. So this is 7 against 6, but we have to subtract 1. So the Germans get to go first. The German's going, get out of here. So he goes like that. The British, meanwhile, are going to stay parked. The ship's going to stay there so he can get his depth charge attack. So these guys, of course, still get to move the 3 inches. They're about off. Again, it's game over in about 2 turns. All right, attack phase. So he has no attack. He shouldn't have turned. That was a mistake. So is he in range? He is actually out of range of the destroyer. The destroyer only has a range of 3 with his depth charges. So unfortunately and ironically, neither one of these guys can actually do anything to each other. So I'm going to go ahead and call the game at this point. The reason I'm doing that is the fact in 2 turns, the victory ships are going to be out of here, and there's no way that submarine's going to catch up. So hopefully you guys appreciated that and can kind of see how that plays out. Interesting, very interesting. We lost a destroyer, they lost a submarine, so it wasn't an interesting trade. It would have been interesting if the dive bombers did a little more damage also, but they didn't because they ended up fixing it and putting that fire out. All right, enjoy.